we're going to do a brief intro, myself and Purva, just so you get to know us a little bit as we co-host tonight. And the bulk of today is really going to be focused on the challenge and getting you all immersed into some of these scenarios that a customer success manager is responsible for. And then we're going to close it out here with a Q&A to get some questions answered from us. So please, drop them in the chat. We will try to cover as much as we can tonight, if not over email as a follow-up here. So that's what today looks like. And just to keep us moving here, if you go to the next slide. So in terms of what we're going to do, we're going to give you a glimpse into the day of the life. Language, I don't know if some people find this in the chat, feel free to chime in on this. Language is something we hear about again and again and again. I don't understand what this means in the job description, how my skills translate to certain things that in these skills requirements. So we're here to really demystify some of that tonight through these scenarios and really help you understand context, right? This is what's hard to glean sometimes in a job description. So that's what we're going to cover through the bulk of these challenges. And just kind of moving on in terms of myself, as I mentioned, I'm Ambika Nigam. I am one of the co-founders of Zeit. My partner in crime, Christina, is here working her magic in the crowds. So you'll see her in the chats. We are Zeit. We are a career exploration platform really designed to do what we're doing today, which is to help people try on a role before they apply and really kind of pre-skill and prepare you for roles that you are capable of or might need to learn a little bit more about. It's near and dear to us. Both Christina and I are multiple time career switchers. We've been friends for many years and met at IDEO. And on this journey, we've been very fortunate to meet Purva, who I will turn it over to let introduce herself. And she's been a really big supporter of Zeit. Purva, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Ambika. I'm so honored to be here. My name is Purva, and I'm the head of talent acquisition at Goalbook. And just a little bit about me, I've actually been in education recruiting for 8 years now. Most of that has been at Goalbook, and I'm really excited to help all of you attendees learn a little bit more about customer success, but also learn a little bit more about the edtech space and how your skill sets can really translate over to this arena.
Awesome. And, Purva is going to kick us off with a little bit of context here. I think some of you might be familiar with Goalbook, but just so you have some more context, especially as we kind of talk about some of these scenarios as it relates to a SaaS company. Purva, maybe you can share just a little bit more about what you all do.
Happy to. So Goalbook, what we are a SaaS company, which means software as a service. And we are an education platform that really is committed to empowering educators to transform instruction. So we have 2 platforms to do that. One is a toolkit, which is really to help support special education teachers in not only coming up with IEP goals, but also having the standard line resources to help support them. And then we also have Pathways, which is another platform which helps support general education teachers around differentiation. And you can kind of see some screens of directly from Toolkit and Pathways to get a better sense of what we do. As an organization, we've actually been around for 11 years, so we're kind of like the OGs in the edtech space, and we're really committed to ensuring that not only are educators being empowered, but also those that come on board to work at Goalbook. And I shared this opportunity with our co-founders, and he was really excited to hear that we're doing something like this to really help support the greater education community and helping folks make that transition over. So I'm excited to be here and learn more about it.
Amazing. So I think we do have a lot of educators and beyond in the audience tonight. So thank you, Purva, for sharing a little bit more. And we're going to cover a little bit about customer success management in terms of just what it is, a little bit around what the role entails at a place like Goalbook, and also kind of speaks to many edtech SaaS companies. But we have one more trusty poll that I just want to throw up there before we dive into that. And it's really just to kind of gauge an understanding here of where you all are in terms of understanding the day-to-day of what a customer success manager does. So I just threw that up, and if give everybody just another 5 or 6 seconds to respond here. It's always so interesting to, kind of level set, especially with such a big audience here. So really, do you have a good understanding of what a customer success manager does on a day-to-day basis? And I'm just going to close it out here. 3, 2, 1. Cool. And I'll share these results. So, cool. Looks like the majority of people are here to learn, right? There are some are enlightened, but it looks like many people are trying to kind of gain a better understanding. So cool. That's a big part of what today is about. One last poll that we have, and I think we somewhat touched on this as people chimed in around what they're here for, but how clear are you around how transferable your skills are to customer success? Let's just give a couple seconds here to let these answers trickle in. And then what we're going to move into, we're going to talk a little bit about what customer success managers do and what they don't do. I think there's many roles out there that maybe sound like it. So we're just going to cover a little bit today around clarify what delineates the role. All right, so 3, 2, 1, and this, I'm going to share this poll here. Cool. So are you clear? Looks like we have very similar. I think the majority of people are kind of neutral about their ability to understand it or disagree and want some more clarity. Cool. So hopefully we'll give you that tonight. Great. Okay. So let's keep moving along here in terms of sharing a little bit more about customer success. So hopefully everyone can see the presentation here. I know also Christina shared some links that are going to help you kind of track along as we move through the challenges. So what is customer success? And Purva, please chime in here with me. A couple things that we wanted to really specify. So customer success at large is really, it's a very strategic role. And unlike sales, which I think this is one of the first big questions that comes up, customer success starts post-sale. So this is post a client agreeing, signing on the dotted line, and really a customer success manager takes over with the idea of ensuring that your customer is going to get the most value out of this product. And there's kind of two pieces from a business standpoint, customer success managers. There's a aspect of business acumen here that is very important. And I know, Purva, we've talked about this a lot, especially people that are kind of new into the role. So that's really being mindful of business related goals such as retention, having an eye for upsell and cross-sell opportunities. And you can see here, you're not necessarily quota driven in customer success manager roles, but you do want to be, as a liaison with sales teams, you want to be able to facilitate those transactions, especially at moments of renewal. Mm-hmm. Anything there that you would add, Purva?
I think definitely one of the big things is using data. It's much more data driven. As a customer success person, you're looking at data around usage, you're looking around data around feedback, which we'll get into in a bit. But that's something that I think when folks think about customer success, they don't realize that there's a lot of data involved, actually.
Absolutely, yes. And it's a great point, because tonight we're actually that's what we're going to cover. Our scenario is going to be about kind of one of the data components. So a couple other things that we just wanted to highlight. So a big piece of a customer success manager role is to be cross-functional. So You have to work closely with sales, post that handoff to make sure it goes smoothly. You're oftentimes working closely with product managers or engineers if something is wrong with the product. And again, you're not responsible for reacting. This is not customer service where you're reacting to issues and troubleshooting, but you certainly want to be responsible for making sure that like these are features that are getting value, these are features that are not getting value. So that's really where the value piece is really critical here. A couple other aspects that just wanted to highlight are we hear a lot about this idea of the quota and being quota driven. So quota is something that is normally in sales roles. And there's a distinction between renewals and being quota driven. So renewal is really your client has signed up, you're responsible for making sure they get the most value out of it, such that you retain them, such that they continue to subscribe again a year after year. Whereas a quota is more about bringing in net new clients. So just a distinction that we wanted to make. And then one last thing I'll just highlight. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Purva, please.
Oh yeah, I just want to mention also with SaSS not being quota driven, especially within the edtech space in general, because most edtech companies do work with public schools. And sometimes that depends in order for them to purchase a product, a lot of it depends on funding. So that's another reason why we don't make SaSS quota driven, at least at Goalbook, primarily because a SaSS manager can do everything correct, but it could just boil down to budget and availability for everything. So they may not be able to renew.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Cool. And actually kind of, it's a good segue because moving on here, just to share a little bit more about kind of what is the breakout of some of the core responsibilities for CSM at a place like Goalbook.
Yeah, so I'm happy to jump into this. So a lot of the core responsibilities that come with being a SaSS manager is broken down into these three categories. So planning and implementation. So this means once that warm handoff happens from sales and you start working with the districts, it's taking the time to get to know the district, getting to know the landscape, getting to know the underlying politics that may not come up in those meetings, but doing your own research and really understanding what that looks like. And it's really thinking about how, now that they have Goalbook, how can we really ensure that our, or any platform that they're able to utilize that within the district, the teachers are able to use the goal and whoever's going to be the users, that they're able to utilize that effectively. The other core responsibility is delivering training. I do want to emphasize this is very different from lesson planning and teaching in the classroom. This is a lot more strategic and really thinking about your user base and really thinking about what their needs are and what they're looking for out of a platform and ensuring that you're delivering that training. A lot of that comes during that planning and implementation phase. But it's really a lot of it is planned obviously prior to the training, but also a lot of it's on your feet and really getting a sense of your audience while you're delivering the training. So it is, to what you've done in the classroom, but it's a lot more strategic and thinking about the users at the end. Right. And lastly, contract. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Okay. Sorry. And lastly, it's contract renewals. So as Ambika shared, like a lot of that, there is a business side to customer success. It's not necessarily sales, but it's because you've done planning and implementation with district leaders, because you've delivered effective trainings and you've maintained that relationship throughout the year. A success person is the one that really is able to guide that conversation when it comes to renewals, because they've taken the time to get to know the district, their needs, and look at their usage data. So those are some of the core responsibilities that come with success.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And actually kind of continuing on here, sharing a little bit more about, we touched on kind of cross-functional collaboration and but yeah, maybe you can share a little bit more here just to complete this.
Yeah, so yeah, like as Ambika shared earlier, like that cross collaboration as a success person really comes from having a number of collaborators. So that involves having that internal team. The slide will be back up soon, but that involves, the internal team being your fellow, coworkers, the sales team, product team, engineers, even the co-founders if they're really involved. But also it's thinking about the external stakeholders as well that you would be working with. So that is especially at the district level. Those include superintendents, special education leaders, school-based administrators, those teacher coaches, and subject matter experts. So thinking about those external stakeholders as well. And the key performance metrics that come with that are, like the way that you continue to cultivate and build those relationships comes from renewal rates, but also the quality of those relationships with decision makers. It's one thing to just email the decision makers. It's another thing to really cultivate and build that relationship, be it meeting in person or Zoom, and really getting to know what their needs are and building that relationship from there. As you know, in the education space, it's all about that relationship, and it takes time to do that.
Absolutely. I think those are really important, the metrics too, because, understanding how you are going to be evaluated stepping into a role. And I think these are very common metrics that transfer across all CSM roles, Edtech and beyond.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Were you say something else?
Just so you may think that might be really hard to quantify the quality of relationships and renewal rates. But I think like in the future examples that we're going to show tonight, you can see how both of those worlds kind of come together.
Yep. Great. Awesome. Well, another good segue, because we're going to dive in now. I hope this has been some good, just kind of level setting and context. And again, we will send you all this information and the recording so that you can move through this again and digest it at your own pace. But we're going to roll up our sleeves and do a try-on challenge now. And just to kind of help everybody understand what these are, it's a new paradigm that we're introducing here, which are, the idea is to really help people go beyond a job description and get a sense of a day in the life to see, is this something that I'm interested in? And the way that we do that is these scenarios are all designed by experts that are in this discipline, and they are really kind of for you to be immersed and step into a day in the life, and understand and reflect whether this is something that I have skills that can be translated to in this context. Maybe I haven't done this exact thing, but because I've done something similar, here's why I know I'd be successful at it. So that's what we want to unlock for you all, and ultimately see if this is something that could be a good fit and you could apply for. So that's the purpose of our challenges. We have a lot more coming here, but just to kind of kick us off, the way these will work. And today we're going to cover 3 scenarios. So we're going to give you a bit of a brief kind of background or context, and then we're going to give you a prompt to answer. And these are all going to be multiple choice. This is why your poll fingers are all ready and warmed up. So you're going to review, reflect, and vote. And wanted to just today, the purpose is to really go deep on kind of this like data and analysis or more business side of customer success. And the reason that we're choosing that is because this tends to be for people that are new to customer success, especially an area that feels foggy to them or unclear. And we want to really demystify that for you all tonight. So that's why we're going deep in this specific aspect. So with that, I think Christina had also shared in the chat, there's going to be information on these slides we want you to kind of take in, and you'll be able to do that. Danielle, we got you covered tonight. So with that, let's dive in and try it on. I know we got a kind of a game show effect here. So this very first scenario is about leveraging data to take action. So as straightforward as it sounds, it's a big part of the role. How do you get comfortable and familiar with certain data and take some actions based on that? So I'm going to toss it to Purva to kind of set this one up, and we'll get moving.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead and read it, and I can also give you a little bit more context. So after 3 years, a large district decided to pilot Goalbook for 3 months to a select group of 3rd grade teachers. The sales team is trying to land the sale to the district. They reach out to you as a potential success manager to see usage data for the pilot. You pull up the report and see that in spite of your training, usage was low during the pilot. And before we jump into polls, I wanted to give you context. You might be like 3 years, to try to engage with a district. If you think about education itself, it takes, like I shared earlier, it takes a long time to cultivate that relationship and build that trust. And one way to do that is to really get to know the districts, get to know them, and also offer pilots. And that usually comes from the sales team, and then they designate a success person to really support the pilot, and they work in collaboration to ensure that not only is the pilot successful, but they hopefully will sign on for a full school year. So I wanted to get that context.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you for setting that up. And then just kind of moving into the first prompt here.
Did you want me to read this out?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, so now you have like a little bit more context. Remember, it's a pilot program. So what would be the right first step? So would it be A, send a note to your manager to let them know that the pilot data was low, but you're on it? B, reach out to your point of contact to see if you could facilitate a last-minute professional development training session to increase usage? Or C, immediately connect with the sales team to gather new selling points to incorporate it to your pitch before contacting the client? So as you look at those examples, I want you to also take a look on the other side of the slide and take a look at some of the data that we have posted there too. And just to, take time to think about it, and then we can see what the correct answer is.
Awesome. So just threw up the poll there too. And just so everybody knows, we are, all of this is, no answers are going to be shared here with anybody. So this is really for yourselves to learn. So take a minute and digest it. And we also hope that you get an understanding here of like, this is what you would be doing, right? You would be looking at this type of data to decide how to take action. So this is a very typical way in terms of people often ask like, well, what does that mean that you're working with data, and what type of data do you look at? These are the types of kind of charts and graphs that you're exposed to and making and driving some insights around. So I'll give it another, I think we have about 60% of the people that have weighed in here. So maybe we'll just want to give everybody a chance to kind of digest and take this in.
And one thing I wanted to mention also, like when you think about usage data, that's something that you're able to extract. And as a success manager, you have access to that data on a regular basis. So it's not just a one-time thing, it's something that you do monitor throughout the relationship. Right.
And I think that's an important piece here too, Purva, is that you want to be, this has to be something that you're excited about, right? And kind of motivated by, because you do have to be curious around how the data is moving in this role to be successful. Okay, so I'm going to do a countdown here. 5, 4, 3, 2, lock in your answers. 1. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. We had kind of a good spread here. These aren't easy. But the correct answer is B here. And Purva, I'll let you kick us off as to kind of explaining why.
No worries. Thank you. So the correct answer is B. So as a customer success manager, you want to be a thought partner with your districts, and not only in implementation, but also to continue to support the district in tricky situations. So there was an interesting comment that came up in the chat that asked who would be the point of contact. So this would be so when a contract is signed, there is someone at the district that would help with, that would be your it's like point person. So that could be for example, a special education director. It could be a district coach. It could be an administrator. So that is that person that you would actually cultivate and build that relationship with. And so that would be your point of contact. And they're the ones that look at the data, and also they're the ones that advocate if you want to, especially when it comes to the pilot, if they want to continue the relationship into the next school year. And why not the others? Pilots are generally at a reduced rate. So, it's more around Like, again, it's like testing out to see, because it's also like a test for Goalbook or for the company as well to see, like, is this a good fit even on the district? Are we a good fit for the district too? So it's a pilot is a nice way to kind of see that. And that's where you have those conversations with those decision makers. And while it's important to connect with your manager, it's also great to be proactive and really, utilize that data and take that action. I do want to take a second and look at the chat because it seems like there's some really interesting things happening.
I'll let you look. First of all, love that see the chats lighting up like this, because we are a community-based platform. Like, this is the reason why we are doing these in this format, because people can support each other as they're learning. So I love some of these questions. And I saw something about, well, wouldn't you intervene sooner? That's exactly right. That is a really, that's the purpose of kind of being motivated by data. You could intervene sooner, or think about some way to maybe course correct. And then I think there was another kind of point just about comparing it to average data, which I believe is it's more of just a baseline, right? Like, this is how other customers are tracking kind of at that stage. So you have a baseline to kind of measure success against. Amazing. Any other, like, one or two things you want to call out just before we move on? We got two more scenarios here.
It's interesting they bring up the point, like, I would hesitate request a last minute PD when PD days are planned. That does make a lot of sense. So there's ways of, like, another way you can increase usage is maybe offering an optional PD over Zoom or something which educators might be interested in attending to, or like designating. So that is a good point, because those PDs are set, but there's other ways around that. Or we also have recorded webinars that we do also send to educators as well. So that's another way to kind of help with that, where sometimes that scheduling can be tricky during the school year.
Amazing. Awesome. Great points in the chat. Very sharp crowd. Okay, I'm gonna keep us moving here to go into our next just kind of quick recap around skills that are used. I'm happy to kind of kick this one off, Purva, but please chime in here. I think we touched on some of these, but this is good for everyone to think about. What are the skills that you have, and how are they transferable? So clearly, insights and synthesis, like looking at data, being able to pull out patterns. Great group. The chat is just evidence of some of that. I think problem solving, data pulling goes hand in hand with that. So making sure that you're comfortable pulling together some of those reports or looking at that data on a daily basis, you know how to work with the right teams to be able to extract that. Problem solving is really what you saw here. Like, how can you intervene earlier? How can you, as Purva was suggesting, like webinars, materials, things that can help a client as they're moving through this. So just being able to be very agile in how you think about potential solutions. And Purva, you want to touch on some of these other ones around like communication or honesty?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I've just from the chats, like, there is that honesty and integrity, which I can already see within the chats, thinking about, wait, what about the district's needs? What are ways that we can really help support them? PD is already planned. Like, I love that honesty, integrity is there. And that's what, given that you've worked in that space before, you get that. Like, someone maybe who, may not have been I've only been in the classroom for a brief amount of time, but I don't know all of the dynamics. Whereas someone who's been an educator, like many of you here, know not only like what happens in the classroom, but at the school level and at the district level. And that brings in that honesty and integrity.
Awesome. Great. Okay, moving into our next scenario. And this is, again, we're going to cover three. So this is the second one, using data to influence. So we'll have Purva, we'll have you set this one up, and again, everybody can track along with us. So go ahead and move into the second scenario.
Great. So here's another scenario. It's close to the end of the school year, and the largest district on your caseload wants an impact report. So an impact report is really looking at all the usage data over the year, similar to what we just shared in the last scenario. So besides usage data, you also want to include teacher feedback. You receive survey results from teachers. How would you summarize the overall feedback to your district? So again, keep in mind the end of the school year is when those renewal conversations tend to happen. Those generally happen between the months of March and June, so more sort of towards the end of the school year. So this feedback and all this information is really critical for that renewal. So you can see the survey results here. I'll just read over like how would you summarize the overall feedback to districts? So A, overall positive feedback and the product seems to be meeting educators' expectations. B, generally positive feedback, but there's some work to improve supporting educators in writing statements and goals. Or C, overall neutral because of the neutral scores in supporting educators to write statements and quality IEPs. So we'll turn it to all of you to decide which one, how would you best summarize the overall feedback?
Great. I just opened up the polls there, so we'll just give everybody a minute or two to absorb this information. Got about 50% of the answers locked. And just as we kind of give it another 20 seconds or so for people to lock in their answers, I want to just do a quick callback to something we talked about around renewals, to distinguish how people are evaluated in this role. So I think this is a really good example, Purva, of like, as you were saying, there's some things that, customer success managers can't control, budgets, changes in the economy, et cetera. But it's certainly surveys like this that can help get a pulse for maybe how influential a customer success manager was. Is that fair to say?
I agree. Yes, it is. And it's something
Awesome.
where, again, it goes to that qualitative evaluation. Yeah.
Right. So very important metrics to affect, right? As you think about your job, this is obviously where you want to see the positive strongly agrees. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick countdown here to lock in your final answers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And looks like the majority here came in with answer B.
Right. So generally positive feedback, but there's some work to improve the support of educators in writing statements and goals. So, and the reason why the correct answer is B is that goal writing, especially in the special education space, as many of you know, is a core skill needed to track student progress. And the product with some additional support can help teachers feel more confident in this skill. Also, if you think about it, this is something for renewals. This is something that you can commit to into the following school year. Like if we continue the contract into the next school year, we can really hone in on this, be it through trainings or other ways that we can really help support our educators so they get really comfortable with the skill set. So it's also a good way to build that foundation to that renewal conversation as well. And so that's part of it. And then also maybe why not the others? Like maybe why not A or C? While the feedback is positive, there are some ways to support educators and ensure that they continue to use the product.
Right.
And also, the overall feedback has been good and could be considered a win, but also it's always great to look for those rooms for improvement, but also thinking about strategically what can be done to continue that relationship into the following year.
Right. Right. And seeing a lot of people commenting about that exact idea, room for improvement. In the chats here. So just to kind of touch on some of the skills here that are covered in this type of scenario. I think it's certainly building. If you could flash to the next slide, Christina, please. Awesome. I can kick this off, Purva, and please chime in. So again, continued data insight and tracking. I think no brainer here, but constantly being able to canvas reactions and kind of where your customers are, so that you know how to, moving into this next one, really proactively manage the relationship. So I think a lot of you notice that as the chats are lighting up. Again, being a customer success manager is a proactive role, right? You're not sitting in waiting for tickets and somebody to say that this is broken, and not that there's anything wrong with those roles too. Those are extremely important roles within organizations, but that's the difference here in being a customer success manager. You are trying to anticipate trouble areas. You're trying to, just as we saw, there's opportunities for improvement. So how do we get that up? How do we get that up for renewal? Things that are working, that's great. How do we sustain that? But then that could also signal there's an opportunity here to build even more value with the client, right? So perhaps they're ready to take on a new product or a new feature, a new service that we offer. So those are the ways that that you want to be thinking here. Anything you would add to that, Purva?
Yeah, and ultimately, yes, we're focused on the renewal, but we also want to make sure it's a great experience. It's a continued experience for our users, and they continue to grow in that, especially, as the education landscape is changing, we want to make sure that we're changing along with it, and we're able to provide that support over the school years and beyond. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, how's everyone feeling? You ready for the final scenario? Okay, great.
I love this.
Let's do it. All right, so the final one here is sharing data and insights with stakeholders. So Purva, I'll toss it back to you.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you. So now continuing on with that renewal, like they can be tricky. Sometimes they're not predictable those renewal conversations. And even though, you might have all the data, sometimes it's, districts are still deciding. So here's the example for that. Like a district is going back and forth on renewing Goalbook for the following school year. As a success manager, you've been regularly checking in on your point of contact for any updates and to offer any additional information that they may need to help support the renewal. So it turns out while usage is great for teachers using Goalbook, the decision makers are not sure about student impact. What would you do? So remember, keep in mind, the decision makers kind of like your, I guess, how could we describe, that's that insider person, I guess, in a way to give you okay, this is what the decision makers, who generally at the district level are the superintendents or other or special education directors, those who really think about budgets and what they expect for the next school year. So so now it's okay, based off of that, what is the best action to take to increase the chances of for the customer to renew? So would it be A, adapt research reports and white papers from Goalbook to show impact? Select specific research and email it to the client. So we, one of our arms at Goalbook is we do have a research arm. So collecting all that data and just sharing it with them over email, and hoping that might be a way to help to share that with your point person and share that with the decision makers. B, pull data and research on Goalbook student impact and develop a memo summarizing the impact. So really taking a look at all the research and also also the direct impact and synthesizing it together. C, try to get on the client's decision makers calendar soon to go over any hesitation. So it's setting up that appointment and and trying to make that final pitch. Or D, work together with the sales team to collaborate and pitch the client together. So coming together with the sales team member and working together on a pitch together to share with the decision makers. So which one would you pick?
Awesome. We got about 30% of the answers have come in. I love the chats. There's someone saying, this is a juicy one. I love it. Yeah, this one definitely tripped me up a little bit. So we were pulling it together. And that's why there's some that felt a little similar in terms of the responses. One other thing is, just as people are locking in here, I saw a comment or a kind of question about can CSMs pull in core users to put them in front of engineers or product teams? Great question. And this is actually, I think, at least one of the cool things about being a CSM is that you are that person. So taking a lot of this data and going to meetings with mainly product managers to be the voice of the customer. This is what we're seeing. This is what's working. What's the roadmap look like? Maybe you need to prioritize this a little bit more and deprioritize that. So yes, go ahead, Purva.
No, and also like just to build upon that, like, being a cross-functional team member, you're able to have access to that information. And even if like, and sometimes those folks are called upon, like,
Right.
to provide that information, or sometimes even, you know, share that information out with external
Yes.
folks.
Yes, exactly. And just as a, an aside, but this is why we've also seen people that are customer success managers and have fall in love with product and go on to become product managers,
Mhm.
many, if
Yeah,
they want to
a
become
lot of them are.
more technical or affect the business even that much more. So,
Mhm.
um,
And I did,
okay, all right, I'm gonna go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh,
Go
no, I
ahead. I'm
wanted
just
to
gonna
just one thing that came up was white papers. So white papers are research papers. So just so, and most companies have like what white papers that really provide the quantitative data to show the impact of and the effectiveness of the product. So Goalbook has one, and a lot of other companies do, but we definitely have our white paper, which you can download.
Amazing. All right, I'm locking it in here. 3, 2, 1. The
Yay!
answer's there. Okay, so we had
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the correct answer is B. It was so interesting to see the debates, and I agreed with a lot of it. Like they could blend them together, or they seem similar.
Yeah,
But a
yeah,
lot of it is, you remember, like, and this kind of goes back to what folks actually brought up in the chat earlier, is folks are busy, especially if it's the end of the school year and they're
yeah.
making other budgetary decisions. The best way to do that is to actually summarize everything and put it in a memo that can be easily digestible. But folks can really, take a look at that, like have a snapshot of what that could, of the student impact. It does take
Yes.
a little extra work, but it does pay off to really make that quick snap, not snap decision, but like at least a picture of that folks can look at really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna, I know a lot of people notice that's the similarity. And I think again,
Mhm.
between A and B, and this is again highlighting kind of a strategic bent of a customer success manager, because it's not just about gathering the information and sending it. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's pulling out those insights that are going to get the client to get to the next level, right?
Exactly.
You want to keep that top of mind. So yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, just kind of
Yeah.
reiterating what you so
Yeah.
wisely said.
No, but it's, and
Go
then Lynn
ahead.
brought up a good point. She said, could you also set up data sharing agreements with the district and work with them to analyze specific data?
Mhm.
Yes, and that depends on the implementation plan. And that's something that comes up with during the contract sign phase.
Awesome. Terrific. Okay, well, those are the scenarios. We hope that you really, really enjoyed them. It sounds like this was really fun and educational, which is the purpose for everybody. Just kind of to wrap up the skills used here in this final one. Again, I'm happy to kick this one off.
Mhm.
So I think we touched on, you can see a thread here around insight and synthesis, as well as, working with data. A couple new ones, right, that you notice here are, this is kind of where we introduce qualitative research as well. So being comfortable with finding it, synthesizing that as well. But then also like this idea of the sales closing mindset, which we touched on earlier, knowing, what are the pieces that I need to pull to get this client to the next level. And, demonstrating agility by quickly synthesizing that information, understanding how, to have the ability to pull up a memo and write that in a very kind of persuasive way, which is kind of a technical and strategic skill, but also is obviously kind of touching on the art of storytelling here. So, okay, so anything to add to that, Purva?
No, it's great. I think, it's that story, like the data tells the story. And
Right.
so, and really like, taking all that information and digesting that and making it, and taking the information that, being an educator or working with districts and really using their terminology is a way to help with that story as well.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to open it up to a quick Q&A. We just want to do we'll do these really quick polls because we'd love to just kind of understand how helpful this was. So do you now have a clearer understanding how your skills are transferable? Do you agree that you do have a clearer understanding now? We'd love to kind of get a quick pulse for people after going through these scenarios. So we'll just give another kind of 5-6 seconds here. And then for those of you, if you have questions, please like drop them in the chat, because we are going to cover a couple of these questions now. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, perfect. Okay, great. Well, glad that we were able to move the needle here for many of you.
Love it.
That's awesome. Okay, last one. I'd say second to last one. So understanding. I have a better understanding now of what a customer success manager does on a daily basis. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. All right. Just give it another question. And I'm looking here. If you have questions for Purva and myself, we'd love to make sure that we get some of them answered here. Okay. And 5, 4, 3, 2. Perfect.
Yay.
Great. Awesome. Good to see. Great to see that. Amazing. So please, let's see, I'll just pull out one of the first ones here. Platforms. I think this is a good one to cover. The platforms and tools used. We saw a question about CRMs or Salesforce.
Yeah, so it depends on the company. We as an organization use Salesforce in order to organize, to pull that usage data and also to put reports together. As far as organizing that, there's a bunch of platforms out there. There's Asana, there's Trello, Notion. So a lot of, at least at Goalbook, we just use or what works best for us. Like, for example, I use Notion for organizing. And so that's a way to keep track of multiple clients.
Perfect. One that we've seen a lot of plus ones around here, like for someone entering the field from another field, how does one get past the 2 to 3 years of experience requirement?
Yeah. So that's where those kind of like the slides that share about the skill sets used, it's a matter of translating it for us. So those of you in the education space have looked at data. You have looked at, you have had tough conversations with decision makers. You've had all of these opportunities. You've also had to like build relationships. So it's a matter of really making sure that you're able to translate those skills on your application materials, be it your resume and or your cover letter, or even on your LinkedIn profile, because we do look at that.
Yeah. And telling those stories, right? I think that's where these scenarios really help, being able to kind of demonstrate that in the interview process. So just a couple other, I see some questions about the background of people that you look for. I mean, I know that you've mentioned that you've hired so many educators, so it's not that you're looking for people that are coming from CSM. And I'll just speak to the fact that we see that across the board for Edtech software companies and beyond. Like they're not looking for, they're very open to educators. They see how their skills are really transferable. But let me know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I think now, at least I see this a lot on LinkedIn, is that a lot of organizations beyond Edtech are actually seeing the value of the skills that educators can bring to any environment. I mean, when Amika mentioned agility and being proactive, I mean, as educators, you're doing that every single day. And that's what they're looking for. You know, that's what a lot of organizations are looking for, not only just Goalbook. So that's something that, you know, you have the skill sets, and I just want to ensure that it's just a matter of really, again, making those translations and making it clear for us and how where you have those transferable skills.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's some questions here around upskilling and where to upskill. I mean, I'm happy to kind of start this one. So we actually have an event coming up in a few weeks where we're going to talk about upskilling and for this role in particular. But I'd say 2 areas that we hear about most with companies are around just like demonstrating some familiarity with CRM or like project planning software, like a lot of the ones that you rattled off there, Purva. And I think the other is demonstrating a comfort with data and analysis. Those are the 2 that I think would poke holes. Anything that you would add to that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely that. There's a question that came up, like, how many accounts does the CSM usually work with? It depends on the company. for Goalbook, they folks have like 30 to 50. So it's a lot of that managing and using those project management skills, which again, educators have when you're working with 30 students in a classroom or multiple students.
Right. Amazing. Okay. Just threw up one last poll as we answer some of these questions. Okay, here. How many clients or accounts does the CSM typically have?
Yeah, so 30 to 50.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. Okay, I think we got a lot of these answered here. I mean, there's something around account management versus CSM. I think the main difference there is really the focus on relationship management. Account management is really more of that and maintaining, whereas the kind of the proactive nature of CSM is probably the main difference. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I think that covered. It's like every company has like different ways of like terming it. Like folks say like customer success, or like they say partnerships, or they say account executives. So it's a matter of really looking at the job description and really looking at it carefully, not just the title, but actually reading it, and also taking the time to maybe even search a couple of folks on LinkedIn who are in the role that you're applying for, to get a sense of like, okay, is this what I actually want to do? Is this is this like when I'm thinking of success? Does the company think of success the same way that I'm thinking of success?
Amazing.
So like, yeah, like our Kendall said, implementation specialist. Yeah. So like it depends on the company.
Great. Okay, we will also go through this chat. I know there were some good questions in here, so I want to make sure that we get everybody's answered. I'm just going to close this poll out. If any last minute people want to drop in a vote there. Things I just want to say, first of all, thank you to Purva for just being such an awesome partner here. We are going to follow up over email with all of this information and a recap. And the other thing that I'll just say is that we're launching more of these challenges. So giving you a little bit of a preview here that you will see soon. But the goal here is that Zeit is going to be a destination that you can start to move through some of these experiences and really try on a variety of different roles in a variety of different scenarios, and have a community that you can, refer to move through those experiences with. And we'd love to share these with you. So we'll keep you posted. The beauty of being a part of tonight's event is that you'll be some of the first to know when these come out. So you got a sneak preview here, and of the one that we're showing you on the screen. So they're going to be for customer success roles and beyond. So please help us kind of spread the word, and we hope to kind of continue to help you all learn in a more fun and immersive way. And the last thing that we'll just share is if you have any more questions, we're going to drop in a link. We'll also email this around ways that you can still stay engaged with us. We have a couple more fun events. You can join our community. It's free, and it's full of amazing people like yourself here tonight that are supporting one another. And Purva, I just preempt kind of where you all are in terms of future applications.
Yes, thank you. So for those of you that looked at our careers page prior to the event, we do not have any customer success roles opened yet. That's because it's the end of the year and we're planning our headcount for the following school year. We are planning to have a number of customer success roles opened up in January 2023. So please keep an eye out for that. And follow us on LinkedIn to really learn about those opportunities. I do also want to say that we do have a role called PD design, a PD design role. This is very different from a success role. I do want to emphasize that it's for folks who've already been in the EdTech space. So I just want to make that clear, because folks have seen, they're like, oh, it's a success role. It's not a success role. And we want to make sure that you utilize the information that you have here from the webinar, and also, putting together your application materials to make sure that you're applying for the right roles. So I just want to emphasize that.
Right. Amazing. Thank you. And we will also help with that. So in our there's a form that we'll be sending out in the email. If you're interested, we are also going to, you know, based on your experience tonight, be working with Purva to make sure that we get the right people over to her. So keep us posted as well. And just wanted to say thank you to everybody for showing up here today, and for just being awesome participants. And really glad that you all took something away from tonight, and hope that we can see you at future challenges with us. Awesome.